Hi, I'm David Dennis. I work for Microsoft. I've been there for 23 years. Luckily, for about the past 8, I've worked out of my backyard office on the west side. I'm also the co-founder of Ventana Surfboards and Supplies, and we're using AI significantly in Ventana, but also Microsoft's invested over $10 billion in OpenAI. OpenAI responsible for ChatGPT and Dolly for graphic creation and ChatGPT for text creation. And we've done an incredible amount of work over the last year to integrate OpenAI's technology across the Microsoft ecosystem. And I'm going to do a little bit of a demo today in the context of email. So Microsoft Copilot is the brand we use now for the work that we've done across Microsoft apps and services to integrate AI, Bing, PowerPoint, Word, Excel, Outlook, our new designer product that allows you to create really cool graphics for use on social media and for other marketing purposes. The amount of capabilities that we built in a very short period of time are pretty amazing. And each investment is contextually relevant to the application or the service in which it's been integrated. So again, I'm going to show you Outlook, but all of the work that we've done in the context of Outlook is very specific to scenarios and pain points that people have in scheduling meetings or sending email. And so what I'm going to show you is the new version of Outlook that's available for free today in Windows 11. And I'm going to show it in the context of an interaction that I'm going to have with Doug at Santa Cruz Works from within Ventana, our environmentally responsible surf company that we've had now for close to 10 years. The Windows Outlook Copilot capabilities, most of those are available in paid versions of Outlook. We're working on our SKU plan right now, and you can always learn more by going to do a web search for Microsoft Copilot or Microsoft 365 Copilot to learn about how you can get some of this capability. So the scenarios we're going to talk about are, I'm going to write an email to Doug about new partnership ideas, but I'm going to do it in my tone of voice. Although the AI is going to help create the email, it's going to sound like how I write, and I'll show you how that works in a second. We're going to summarize a very long email thread that'll help save time and just get to the root of what's being said without having to read a really long thread. I'm going to get some coaching on how to make a blunt message sound a little more impactful and respectful and nicer. And we'll schedule a meeting and create notes and agenda automatically based on an email thread. And I'm also going to spend a little bit of time chatting with Microsoft Bing using copilot.microsoft.com to create a press release and an image that represents the partnership we're going to be creating here with Santa Cruz Works. So the first thing I'm going to do is write an email to Doug, and I'm going to have AI help me with some ideas for a partnership that we might want to have. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to either do a slash where it'll bring up the prompt that says draft with Copilot, or I can go to the top of Outlook and draft with Copilot. And all I'm going to write here is write an email to Doug Erickson, Executive Director of Santa Cruz Works, with a pitch for collaboration with my company, Ventana Surfboards and Supplies. Write at least 5 ideas and play to his ego. Now, we know Doug doesn't have a very big ego, but I thought it would be fun to see what sort of embellishment it provides here. So great. I'm writing you today to propose a collaboration between Ventana and Santa Cruz Works. Now, it's gone out on the internet. It's up to date with the latest information about both of our organizations. So it knows about Ventana, it knows about Santa Cruz Works. And it's going to say, as a prominent leader in our community, your vision and expertise would greatly benefit our partnership. Here are some 5 ideas for collaboration: joint marketing campaigns, promoting ecotourism and beach cleanups, co-sponsored events to showcase local entrepreneurs, educational workshops on sustainable business, mentorship program, new resourcing ideas together for product development and innovation. So here's the ego boost. With your leadership, I'm confident that our collaboration will make a significant impact on our community. I look forward to discussing these ideas further. So I'm going to go ahead and keep that. Now, what I could also do, if I really wanted to, is I could do another draft. And notice here, I have different ways of writing this email. I can make it short, medium, long. I can make it casual, formal. I could turn it into a poem. But what I can also do is have it sound like me. And what this is going to do is it's analyze some of the emails that I've written in the past, especially ones that I may have written to Doug. And it's going to make it sound a little bit more like the way I would normally sound an email, because we know that AI sometimes sounds like AI. It might be stilted, it might be a little formal. And so what I'm going to try and do now is have it sound like me and see what happens. So it's going to create that draft. Hopefully it'll come up with some cool ideas and make it sound a little bit less like artificial intelligence and a little bit more like David Dennis. So I'm using an internal version right now of Outlook, and so it might be a little bit slow because it's not quite been released yet, but here we go. I'm David Dennis, Eco-Friendly Surfboards, big fan of your work. Nice bullet point list. I like the way that this was formatted a little bit better. Here are some ideas I have in mind. I think these ideas would benefit. I'm sure you have some great ideas of your own. Actually, this does sound a lot more like me. Best David, that's great. So I'm going to keep this just like it is. I can prompt here to make some changes if I wanted to, but I think this one's pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and say Ventana collab with Santa Cruz Works. And I'm going to look this over. Looks good. I'm going to send this to Doug, and then hopefully Doug will reply back to me here in a second. Great. It looks like Doug wrote back. He says, David, that sounds great. Interested in meeting in the ocean. How about 9 a.m. on Friday? I'd love to surf a Ventana board, of course. Do you have any demo boards I can try? Also, I've seen the Ventana surf squatch around. Might be cool to have him come to an event as well. Okay, that's great. So Doug wants to meet, but I want to forward this to somebody else who I think might be interested in the meeting. So what I'm going to do here is let's pretend that I'm sending this to someone else, but I'm going to send it to myself so I can demo something else for you. Check this out. Want to come to the surf meeting, should be productive and you always have great ideas. Could you do Friday at 9 per Doug? So I'm going to send that, and let's give that a second to show up. And it's sending. So now imagine that if you're like me, you often will get, email threads that are forwarded to you that may have been going on for kayak a week, sometimes even a month, and there'll be 20 different emails on the thread. And, sometimes those mails can be quite long and it'll take you, 10, 15, 20 minutes even to really understand what's been going on, especially if somebody's asking you for your response or your perspective on something that's been being talked about for weeks. And so one of the things that we've done to address that is as a thread is getting long, you can just click a summary by Copilot. And what that's going to do is look for key information in the mail and the mail thread, and it's going to give a summary. Now, in this case, it's a short thread, so it's pretty easy to read. But imagine a thread that's 20 or 30 different messages long from different people. What it can do is summarize that for you, give you just the gist of the most important points that are being discussed, and maybe even action items that are being requested of you or others. And then there are links in the summary to allow you to jump directly to where those messages are in the chat. And it'll expand those, or in the thread, and it'll show you directly where that information is in the email thread. So that's just a really cool time-saving feature. The other thing that you can do is create a Copilot meeting from a thread. And what that allows you to do is it'll open up the calendar and it'll use AI to go through the thread, create a title, an agenda, and a summary in the body of the description of the meeting request. And so this will say, here's the agenda, here's the summarization of the conversation so far. It has a link back to the original email, and then I can go and find who's available and I can suggest times and send out that message. And so in this case, I'm just going to insert into this meeting request all the information that was summarized by Copilot from the email thread. So that's just another great time saver. If you're like me, going through and figuring out agendas is always a pain. And so while I may want to go in and edit some of this, it's great to use Copilot to get started on what we're going to meet about, so that when the time comes for the meeting, everybody can access it and say, here's the email, here's all the information, so that we don't forget what had happened 2 weeks ago when we had scheduled this meeting. So that's cool. So I'm going to give you one more example here of the way we're making email even better. So in this case, I'm going to write Doug again. And I'm going to say, I'm just going to make a really blunt subject line. I'm going to do another draft with Copilot, hitting a backslash, selecting draft with Copilot. And I'm going to say, actually, you know what? I'm not going to say that. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to say, let's meet ASAP. Please let me know times. I'm really busy and I'm sure you are too. Let's get together quickly. So a super blunt email. And what I'm going to do is ask, this one's a really obvious example, but sometimes it's a little bit more nuanced. Your mail might come off as pushy or a little bit aggressive or leaving out key information. And what Copilot allows you to do is get some coaching on your email. It'll help you understand how to be a little more polite, what your tone might need to change to be a more impactful message, a little bit more about the sentiment of the mail, information about whether it's clear or not. And so I'm just going to go through here and say, sometimes it's great for, whether some of the language you're using doesn't reflect sort of the state of the art and diversity language and things like that. So this email sounds rushed and impatient, which might offend the reader. A more polite tone would show respect and appreciation for the reader, a little more information about showing more empathy, clarity to provide more details, since I didn't have an agenda in here, any really specific information about why this was important. So coaching by Copilot, it's a really valuable feature to have your messages be more impactful without you having to do a lot to rewrite them. Just taking those suggestions and either regenerating the message or editing it yourself. So that's kind of a cool feature as well. So the last thing I'm going to do is I am going to open up this whole email thread, and I am going to tell you what, let's do this. I'm just going to copy that original email. Let's assume we had a meeting and that Doug was okay with our ideas. So I'm going to go out to one of our free tools and create a press release and an image that goes along with our collaboration that's based on the email thread we just had. So let me go ahead and share a new interface here. All right, I'm going to stop. Are you there?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, it said I wasn't. All right, so I'm going to share. So this will be a pause, and I'm going to share something new here. Okay, so you can go today using the latest large language model from OpenAI, GPT-4, and DALL-E to create graphics and interact with those two tools for free right in a single interface. So you can do that in Bing by going to bing.com and hitting chat, or you can just go directly to copilot.microsoft.com. And what I'm going to do is ask, let's do something creative. You can do more balanced, more precise, more creative. But since I'm going to do an image and a press release, I'd like it to be a little bit more creative. And again, these tools are free today on the web, and there's an app available for your phone that's also free. So I'm going to say, please take this information and turn it into a short press release with summary info at the bottom about each organization. Put links to each as well. So I'm going to copy that information from the email thread. And while this is generating, I want to give a shout out to newsworthy.ai, which is a company founded by a local founder that has really, really powerful tools for getting press releases created with AI and getting them distributed broadly across the world, as well as finding influencers that can help get your message out. So this is a more simple tool that you can use for free, but I would encourage you to check that out. So here it is. So it gives me a nice press release with a nice title, a little bit of an overview of what the ideas are that we're going to be working on together. It's generating a quote from me about our partnership, a quote from Doug about the partnership, when it's going to kick off, where it might kick off. Now, obviously, some of this is embellished by AI, but it's a great start for me to go in and edit this and get Doug's approval for this partnership. And sure enough, there's the overview of Ventana and a little bit of an overview about Santa Cruz Works with links to the website. So we just turned an email thread into a press release. Now I'm going to use Dolly, again, right directly in this interface to create a graphic. Create a very simple black and white line drawing of a graphic that represents this partnership. That's cool. Gave me information about Santa Cruz Works right there. It didn't even ask for it. So now it's going to go off and try and create a graphic using OpenAI's DALL-E technology. Again, copilot.microsoft.com, or you can just go to bing.com and click on chat. So let's see what it comes up with. It'll come up with 4 different images, and I can continue to iterate on them if they're too complicated or if they don't have some of the kind of vibe that I'm looking for in this partnership. Yeah, those look a little bit complicated. And most AI doesn't do words very well, but these are good directionally. And maybe I want to work with a graphic artist to create something that's a little simpler that's based on these. Sometimes these kind of graphics are good to give art direction to others. But notice what it's doing. It's understanding what I asked for, and it's asking me for, it's prompting me with prompt ideas that I might want to use to make a more enhanced image. And so, again, I would iterate on this, but just like the text, it gives me a good starting point from which to work. And so that's it. Outlook, Copilot in Microsoft Outlook for making better text, generating ideas, improving your tone, creating meetings. We're working on a whole bunch of other really interesting things for the future. And then we have free tools available as well in Microsoft Copilot and directly on bing.com for doing all kinds of really interesting things with GPT-4. For example, this press release, as well as Dolly integrated to create graphics on the fly very quickly for you to iterate on. So thank you for being here and thanks for listening.